Welcome back, everybody, to the Auto Accident Attorneys podcast, brought to you by the Auto Accident Attorneys Group, where our motto is simple: we take care of you. While we're known for helping people navigate the aftermath of auto accidents, this podcast is about so much more. Yes, you'll find helpful episodes on what to do after a crash, how to deal with insurance adjusters, and tips for preventing accidents in the first place. But we don't stop there. This show is about taking care of people in every way we can. That means talking about topics that connect to your everyday life, from how to safely prune trees in your yard to the importance of adopting pets from local shelters. Each episode is designed to offer thoughtful, often overlooked advice to help you stay informed, empowered, and cared for. Whether you're dealing with an accident or simply trying to improve your life and your community. Speaking of community, we're recording in our office here in East Cobb today, and one of our favorite neighbors and business owners and doctors in our own East Cobb community is Dr. Eric Plasker. Dr. Plasker, thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, thank you so much, and thanks for being a great neighbor, a great friend, a great community member, and being everything that you just read about yourselves. I vouch for that personally, and it is completely true, so we are grateful for that.
Thank you so much for saying that. I owe you.
Well, that came with no strings attached, by the way.
Before we started recording, actually, you were generous enough to bring a gift from Italy, and you were telling me, well, I hit the record button, so you had stopped telling me, but you were telling me to open this up and let this breathe before we consume.
Yes, and we should probably consume it after this episode, yes?
Well, who knows? We'll see where the episode goes.
Yeah, it was a special trip that I took. I was invited to speak out in Italy for a conference. It was a doctor's conference, chiropractors mostly, and I had a great time and met some friends out there and toured, and we went and did some wine tasting, and this particular place was just a beautiful place outside of Verona and right from the source, and we loved it. So we got some and decided we wanted to share it with you.
I can't wait. So this is something I'm really looking forward to, and it leads to the perfect segue. You're wearing your 100-year lifestyle shirt. I don't want to skip over the clinic in East Cobb and what you're doing for the community, but since we're talking about Italy right now, tell me about your shirt a little bit.
Well, the shirt covers my upper body. And and I love that the 100-year lifestyle has become what it has become for so many people out in the world. I had no concept of 100-year anything when this was back in, I want to say in the early 90s when this concept and principle came into my life. I had a great mentor. His name was Dr. Joe Felicia. He talked about longevity as an important framework for human potential, and I became a student of his and used it to grow my practice, to educate people about the importance of a healthy nervous system. We certainly know today that the nervous system is vital for healthy longevity, of course. But I didn't really fully understand it until I had a 100-year-old man change my life, which was in my first office. Even before that was, because it took me about 10 years to process what I'm about to tell you happened to me on this day.
Amazing.
But this 98-year-old man walked into my office. We had a great practice down in Buckhead. It was babies, kids, families, seniors, everybody in between. But I never had met a 98-year-old man before. And this guy came into my office. His name was Max. And he asked me this question: Dr. Plasker, can you help me? And I was literally thinking to myself, I have no idea, because I had never even met a 98-year-old man before. And this guy was crippled, broke, and alone. He was struggling to walk. He had horrible posture. His fingers were mangled. He had pain lines etched into his forehead, literally like somebody took a chisel and etched them into his head. And so, as a practicing chiropractor, I was very young at the time. I was only probably less than 10 years in practice, or barely 10 years in practice, now 40 years in practice. But back then, thinking to myself, I have no idea if I can help this guy. So I said to him, like I told all of our people, listen, as long as you're alive and breathing and there's life flowing over your nervous system, let's give it a shot. So I started to work with this guy very gently, very carefully, and wouldn't you know it, in a very short period of time, his posture improves. He starts breathing better. He starts moving with more pep in his step. And he was the cutest guy ever. We fell in love with this guy, and he was always, again, he was crippled, broken, alone. So what do I mean by that? He came in, he was mangled, crippled, started to do amazing, was doing better, so much better. He was broke. How do we know? I guess we didn't really know, but we assumed he was, because when he would go around to the front and my assistant would ask him to pay, and she was obviously very caring and loving about it, and he would take his mangled up fingers, stick them in his wrinkled pockets of his wrinkled pants, pull out the same pants he wore every time. You probably know the pants I'm talking about, right?
I can picture it.
He pulled out wrinkled dollar bills, dropped them on the counter, said, "Thank you, Dr. Plasker, thank you to my assistant," and would leave. So this went on for a year. Never missed an appointment. He was doing amazing, moving faster, smiling, etc. So one day, something happens that never happened before. Max missed an appointment. And we were like wondering, oh my God, where's Max? And he just didn't show up. And we tried to call him, didn't answer. Tried to track him down. I even sent my assistant to his house or to his apartment to go see where he was and see if he was there. No answer. So he's now 99 years old. What do you think we're thinking?
Not good.
Right. That maybe that he passed.
Right.
So we talk about it at the office. We say a little prayer for Max. We say goodbye and go about our business. Well, another year goes by. Max is now over 100 years old. And guess who comes walking through the front door without an appointment one day? And I promise you, even though we've never met, and if you're listening to this, you're going to get it right. Guess who walked in the door?
It's got to be Max.
It was Max, yeah. So I'm in the back adjusting people, and my assistant screams out like she's seeing a ghost, like, "Max, oh my God." I'm in the back, and I'm like, "Max, oh my God, Max?" I only knew one Max, so I'm like high-speed adjusting mode now because, we missed this guy. We fell in love with this guy. We would feed him, give him rides, stuff like that. So I come around, and I give him I look at him, and he's smaller than I am, and I bent over. I gave him a hug, and I said to Max, "Where have you been? We missed you so much." And he looked up at me, and he grabbed my hand, shook my hand, like he had done every time. This was like the same procedure every time after every adjustment. He would shake my hands, and he would say, "Thank you, Dr. Plasker, thank you." So he looked at me, and he said, "Thank you, Dr. Plasker, thank you," and died.
In your office?
Right there in the reception room.
You've got to be kidding me.
I would not kid you about that.
Wow.
He leaned over. Literally, I looked over at my assistant. I said, "Call 911, call 911. She calls 911. His body, literally rigor mortis had already set in. His spirit was like it was gone. His body was hard. He was a tiny guy. I lifted him. He was probably 98 pounds. Picked him up, carried him to the back, laid him down. He was gone. The ambulance comes, takes him away, never to be heard from again.
Wow. I did not know where that story was going.
Yeah. And so what's crazy about it is I could not get it out of my head that, oh my God, what just happened? And then number two, wow, if Max had known that he was going to live this long when he was 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 years old, how would he have lived his life differently so that he didn't get there crippled, broke, and alone?
Wow.
So I started asking people, and I'm the most naive person in the room about this at the time, right? I had no idea where any of this was going. So I started asking people, hey, if you knew you'd live to 100, how would you change your life today? What would you do differently? How would you take care of your health, your finances? What would your priorities be? Your family, your relationships? If you knew you'd live to 100, how would you change your life today? And the answers were all across the board. Literally, people would say to me, "I don't want to live to be 100. Are you kidding me? Grandpa's 84, doesn't even know me. I'll never do that. I don't want to do that." But I would have people say, "Yeah, you know what? That would be really cool if I had my health, if I had the money, if I had purpose, if I had good relationships, if I had friends, if I could travel, if I could do whatever it is that I wanted to do, that I would enjoy my life. Why would I want to go anywhere?" So then I realized it's nothing to do with the age. It has nothing to do with the number. It has to do with quality of life. And so we just built an entire system through my chiropractic practice and the healthy lifestyle choices that we are teaching people about healthy longevity with the 100-year lifestyle, and it ended up becoming a international best-selling book. It's been translated in languages all over the world. We had a #1 best-selling fitness book, the 100-year lifestyle workout book. And, in our practice here in East Cobb, we are surrounded by assisted living centers that had no idea, these people had no idea they were going to live this long. So they had no idea how to take care of themselves to ensure quality of life. And the problem that it affects, how it affects all of us, younger people, looking at that generation, is we look at this generation and say, I don't want to be like that. But here's the profound statement. This generation of 100-year-old people, one of the world's fastest growing groups percentage-wise, this is the first generation in history that is giving us the advance notice that whether we like it or not, want to or not, it's still, on this day, the United States of America, it is still, we can have an opinion about it, but it doesn't change the reality that our life expectancy potential is far greater than we think about. So how do we live differently? So we created this paradigm, and it's just been amazing the difference that it's made locally, globally, and we're having fun doing it.
That's amazing. How old were you when that journey for you started, when after Max passed and it triggered that line of questioning?
I don't remember the exact date, because I'm going to guess 1992, 93, something like that, 1992, 1993. And the first book was published in 2007. I started writing it in 2005. And it took that long for me to literally process all of that. And it would go away, and then it would come back, and it would go away, and it would come back, and it would never leave, and then it would come back again. And so, I felt like it was something that happened for a reason. It gave me a sense of purpose and meaning. My father had Alzheimer's that was statin-induced dementia. Very frustrating to me that my father didn't know his grandchildren for the last 10 years. He had a heart attack at 49, got on all kinds of medication. It was a mild heart attack, got on all kinds of meds, tried to change his life, but instead of living his life, he lived to not die and did a lot of things that harmed him that he thought were the right things that we're learning today are not necessarily the right things to do. And so he didn't know his grandchildren for a decade. Didn't know his wife of 44 years for a decade. We have people, I just went into a local place. They're turning it from a assisted living center to a memory care center. We have more dementia than any other country in the history of the world. We have more sick children than anywhere else in the world. And so, we have to do things differently. And the 100-year lifestyle has been exciting because it lays out a framework. It's not just a book anymore. We have a healthy longevity program. We have a family wellness curriculum that we have put out that people love. Gets people talking around the dinner table the way that they should talk about deep things around the dinner table. And so, and in our practice, we're just helping a lot of people. We have a network of doctors, and we're literally just getting started. But it's a journey that it's just starting, I think, right now, to be honest with you.
That's incredible. I'm hearing this story, and the reason I was wondering how old you were and why you had that line of questioning, and I'm thinking that because of your background as a physician and because you specialize in the nervous system, right? So you have this paradigm that maybe a lot of other physicians in other specialties may not be focused on. So I'm hearing a lot as in terms of like a holistic approach of, it's not just one brilliant thing that you just said was that your father he wasn't living to live or to grow, but he was living to not die. And so that paradigm shift is, I don't think many people ever consider it that way. You're kind of, I don't know the adjective I'm looking for, but you're oblivious almost to your longevity, and something happens, and that for the first moment in your life, that's when you're like, oh, I want to stay. I don't want to die. So you start living differently. So you're talking about having that thought ahead of time.
Yes, we are getting this advance notice, and we're either going to make a choice because of a severe crisis, or we can decide the crisis is not being prepared for my longevity, and so I need to start living now. And what's another paradigm, there's a lot of paradigm shifts. The 100-year lifestyle is one paradigm shift after another, quite honestly. So as you get into it, the books and all those other things. But what's amazing is that the current model is based on the premise you're living on borrowed time. Let's add years to your life. And from my perspective, that is completely false. None of the people that are 100 years old today had a plan.
Mm-hmm.
They all have one thing in common, though. You know what it is?
No, what's that?
They never died when science said they were supposed to. So that's what they have in common. So what we have learned is that this is not borrowed time. This is birthright time. From the moment of conception, the blueprint for your longevity was sealed. The possibility for your longevity was sealed. And you either optimize it throughout your life or you kill yourself slowly over time or somewhere in between.
Wow.
And so when you understand that, because it's not this life, it's innate life expectancy. It's inborn, literally, from the moment of conception. So yes, there are all kinds of things that save people's lives, and we're grateful for that. It's fantastic. And it doesn't change the reality that most of it is under your control if you do the right things and you do them consistently as a lifestyle, not losing weight because your clothes don't fit for a crisis because you can't go to the wedding because you don't have a suit to wear or a dress to wear, but making it a part of your lifestyle to live this way so that you can enjoy and make the most of every day along the way.
I feel personally attacked because I'm realizing all of those crises I'm faced with.
Well, this is not a personal attack. And listen, and here's the thing. Nobody's perfect. Everybody has things that they need to work on. And the acknowledgement of that and the honesty of that, it's funny because it's really about change. The whole principle of this is about change. So we have 3 life-changing principles of the 100-year lifestyle. And the first one is change is easy. Thinking about change is hard. The second one is change comes one choice at a time. Think progress, not perfection. The third one is if you're going to make a change, make it for a compelling reason with your ideal 100-year lifestyle in mind. And so why is that important when it comes to change? And we could do a whole podcast on the 3 life-changing principles, by the way. But I think the important thing here is that if you're listening to this, and if I were to ask you this question, raise your hand, not if you're driving, keep 2 hands on the wheel, but raise your hand or raise your eyelid if you know that you have at least one thing in your life that you need to change that would support your health and quality of life. Okay, so you're not driving, you raised your hand, right? Okay, now, here's the next question. How long have you known? Have you known that you've needed to make this change for at least a week?
My hand's up.
Right, okay. Or how about a month? Or how about a year? Or how about a decade? Right?
Yeah.
So here's the thing. It's not going away. Oh, here's the next question. Is not making the change that you know that you need to make causing you some level of suffering?
Hands up again.
Right? There you go. See, I'm like an attorney. I know the answer to the questions. Okay, so here's the point. It's not going away until you make the changes that you know that you need to make, not what your wife or husband tells you should make, or your boss tells you should make, or your kids tell you should make, or your brother, sister, mother, cousin, whatever. These are things that you know that you need to change. So you're either going to you become crisis motivated or quality of life motivated. And, the 100-year lifestyle takes you through, once you acknowledge those changes and you commit to the changes with a compelling vision, it basically lays out a guide to help you make those changes in every phase of your life. So everything gets better because you make those changes.
It seems like such a simple premise, and you know the answer already. Like you said, you make a great attorney. You know the answer to the question before you ask it, because it's common. You know that this is the human psyche, that everyone has this.
You know what is hard for me is to see parents of their children and then going to visit their grandparents, and they're looking at their suffering and thinking, wow, I don't know if I want to be like that. And then, seeing the grandkids see their grandparents or great-grandparents suffering. That is tough. I was in Bellevue, Washington, a good friend of mine and one of our 100-year lifestyle officers out in Bellevue. His name is Bob Cummins, and he put on a big community event. It was fantastic. There were probably 300-400 people there. We should do something like that in East Cobb. But there were 300 or 400 people there, and I gave a great talk. And afterwards, I was talking to this 95-year-old veteran, And he was like 6'5", big guy. And he was telling me, man, I've been using chiropractic my whole life. It's helped my posture, whatever. And he was just sharing all the things that he had learned in this 100-year lifestyle thing that he was already doing, which helped him to have quality of life at the age of 95. And while I'm talking to this guy, there's a 10-year-old kid, tiny little kid. And he is with his eyes yanking on my jacket. And then with his hand, he starts yanking on my jacket. And I look down at him. He was cute as a button. I said, what's up, buddy? And he says, Dr. Plasker, you changed my life today. And I'm like, a 10-year-old, swear. And I said, what? Who are you? What are you talking about? How did I change your life today? And he looked at me, and I had never thought about this. The market, I had a publisher buy the rights to the book. They put it out there all over. We're going to target market this book for women 40 to 50 years old, the sandwich moms, blah, 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 blah. I said, okay, you're the marketers. This 10-year-old kid changed my life. He said to me, Dr. Plasker, my grandparents died from cancer, and I have been worried for years that I was going to die from cancer too.
Oh.
And he takes off running. He says, I'm not worried anymore. And he takes off running. And then he turns back to me and he says, and I'm going to be a motivational speaker. And he runs away again. And so I never had thought of that before. That happened to me in Dallas too. I was invited to speak at the Four Seasons Hotel for the business community there. And a girl, 15 years old, same thing. She says, Doctor, same exact situation almost. And she says to me, her words were, Dr. Plasker, you changed my life today. My grandmother's 85. She doesn't even know me. I can't talk to her. And it was heartbreaking. She was crying. And I'm like, target market, schmarket. I'm like, this is the real deal right here. We are affecting a generation of children.
Right.
And so this kid, I go home after this boy, Nico was his name, after Nico changes my life that day, and I get an inbox on Facebook, and it's Nico's first motivational talk. And if you want to see how this changed Nico's life, go to 100yearlifestyle.com. There's an article there called Children's Health and Longevity Threatened is the name of the article. And Nico's video, so you know that I'm telling you exactly the truth, Nico's video is embedded in this article.
That's amazing.
And he's giving his first motivational speech telling how we changed his life. It's amazing. And so we have to get to the kids. They have to understand that they're not going to retire at 65, that you're going to live to be 95, 100, that you want to have a life of meaning. You want to have a life of purpose. You want to make a difference. You want to have great relationships. You want to do the right things. You want to have good friends, and you want to contribute in meaningful ways to the world. And that's, literally what the 100-Year Lifestyle is all about. And it's affecting generations, not just the target market that the publishers wanted it to affect.
That is beautiful. And what a great contribution to society to change that paradigm for those growing up. I'm immediately thinking about my daughters, Maddie and Juju. And luckily they see the oldest grandparent that they have right now is 77. It's my father. It was just his birthday. And so we celebrated with him. And I'm thinking about the example he sets in terms of what his lifestyle is going to be, hopefully a decade from now. After he listens to this episode, he'll make healthy choices. So he's just as vibrant. Most of our clients, we were introduced because of our clients and the line of work that I'm in. I meet people after acute trauma, and the majority of our clients are introduced to chiropractic care because of the acute trauma. There are a minority of our clients and cases that we take on that have had chiropractic care prior, and in terms of they just regularly go for health and wellness, which leads me to ask you, going back to the nervous system, why is the human nervous system so important? Or rather, how does chiropractic care make it so that you can, the tagline for 100-Year Lifestyle is adjust your lifestyle. So it's a reference to adjustments, chiropractic adjustments, I assume.
And changes that people should make to their lifestyle.
Again, another holistic approach.
Right.
But in terms of the nervous, making adjustments so that the nervous system can perform optimally, What is that? What is the nervous system? That's where I ended up with the question. I need to talk through that.
Okay.
What's our nervous system?
So your nervous system is your brain, your spinal cord, and the nerves that come from your brain through your spinal cord that go to every cell, tissue, and organ of your body. Not some cells, tissues, and organs. Every cell, tissue, and organ of the body. If you cut a nerve, everywhere where that nerve goes dies. So if that nerve is, you see football injuries, car accident injuries where people get a fracture in their spine and they get paralyzed from that point down, not from that point up. The paralysis is from that point down. And it's because the nervous system is not able to communicate with that area of the body. It's not just your fingers, but it includes your fingers. Mm-hmm. It's not just your arms and your hands and your shoulders and your pec muscles and your stomach muscles and your back muscles and your leg muscles. It's your heart, your lungs, your liver, your kidneys. Every cell of your body needs nerve supply, period. Non-negotiable. 100% agreement across every single healthcare profession. People go in for surgery, they cut a nerve, they come out, that part where the nerve was cut does not heal. It atrophies because it's not getting nerve supply. Maybe they cut a portion of the nerve, so not the whole thing atrophies, but a part of it atrophies and disappears. So we know that this is 100% true. And there's actually research to give you the vastness of your nervous system. They've done studies to where that if they took away all the skin, the muscles, the ligaments, and just had the nerves, the nerve endings, you would still be able to recognize each person as an individual. That's the vastness of the nervous system. So it affects every aspect of health. Your brain gets signals from your body, your hands. Like if you touch something and it's hot, you pull away. That's a neurological reaction. If you hold something and you get off balance and you catch your balance, that's because of not your foot moving. It's because your brain said you're out of balance. I need to move your foot to the left, not to the right. Literally, these messages fire at hundreds of miles per hour back and forth over your body. So from a chiropractic perspective, we know, and from an anatomical perspective and a physiological perspective, we know that the conduit for this communication is from the brain to the body is the spinal cord. And that spinal cord branches out at every spinal level to serve that area of the body with the nerve supply that it needs. So when we use the spine as an instrument to get to the nervous system. We had a patient just the other day that came in. She came in because she had some tightness in her neck and her back. She had 3 adjustments, and she comes in the other day without any prodding. We didn't ask her any questions about this. She said, since I've been coming, my digestion is better. I've had digestive problems forever. Well, we didn't treat your digestion. We didn't treat your digestion. What do you mean? What do you mean? And I'm being facetious here because stuff like that happens all the time.
Right.
And why does that happen? It happens because there was an area that she had nerve pressure where the spine was misaligned. There was pressure on the nerve. It's called the subluxation. That nerve was affecting her digestive. It could have been in her stomach. It could have been in her intestine, small intestine. I don't know exactly where that nerve was going. But, I know that the general area that it was going, but I didn't know for her how it was going to affect her. So that's why we tell people all the time, we don't really treat symptoms. We take care of your body. We remove the pressure and the interference from the nervous system so your body can get the message that it needs to do its job the way that it's supposed to. I'll tell you a crazy story. I don't know how we're doing on time, but...
plenty of time.
Okay. So this happened just recently. It was amazing. Twice it happened just in the last 3 months. We had a woman came in with a brain that had a brain tumor. Okay. She got the tumor removed, and she was left with a lot of residual pain in her neck, some tremors in her hands. She was having headaches, things like that. And we took an x-ray, a spinal x-ray, and she had a reverse cervical curve, meaning that when you look at somebody from the side, you should have a forward curve of your neck. When you look at somebody from the back, the spine should be straight. But when you look at somebody from the side, it should have a smooth forward curve. Well, this person had a reverse cervical curve, which is very, very common for people of all ages, especially in this cell phone generation.
Looking down.
Yes, but it's extremely common after a car accident. This is a vital, important understanding for anybody that gets in any type of accident at all. So this is now after the surgery, years later, we see this reverse cervical curve with degeneration in the spine, which means that it's been there for a while, at least decades. And she had neck pain and she had headaches. So I adjusted her, and after the adjustment, literally she felt a wave in her brain. And I was like, whoa, what just happened? I could see it in her eyes. I'm like, what just happened? And so there's something called cerebrospinal fluid. Cerebrospinal fluid is within the sheath that protects the spinal cord and the spine, while it's within the spine. And that fluid literally nourishes the brain and cleanses the brain with every breath and movement that you make. So it's providing nourishment and cleansing, nourishment and cleansing, nourishment and cleansing. So if there's a reverse cervical curve, it harms the flow of the nourishing and the cleansing. So when I adjusted her, it literally, like this wave of nourishing and cleansing all happening at once, caused her to have this headache. And she felt, the first person I'm telling you about, she had this sudden taste, disgusting taste in her mouth from anesthesia that had literally trapped, I guess, inside of her brain. And it maybe released inside her sinus cavities and went into, and she was like making this disgusting face. It was crazy, right?
It makes me, I'm imagining in my mind's eye like a green garden hose that's like been bent. So it puts the pressure so the water can't come through.
That's exactly what it is. Exactly what it is. And in fact, that's like the old forever story that chiropractors would tell, the garden hose story. Yeah. 100% true. So I didn't expect that. Right? I did my job. I got rid of the pressure, let the body heal itself.
Right.
It does. So within like just a few weeks, she's not sensitive to light anymore. Her headaches are gone. She's doing amazing. Her paresthesia goes away.
Wow.
And so there's two things that come into my mind. Number one, wow, I'm glad we got that corrected. Number one. And number two, I wonder, since you've had this in your spine for so long, I wonder if the lack of nourishment and cleansing in some way contributed to your tumor. I don't have the answer to that question. It's a very good question.
That needs to be presented and have medical literature, some universities looking at that.
We know through research that is done by chiropractors, we know that in video fluoroscopy studies that when you remove the pressure from a subluxation and you're watching it in real time, that you actually can see the cerebrospinal fluid start to flow again. So we know that it's scientifically known that that is what CSF, cerebrospinal fluid, does. And so no question in my mind about that. So the second person, just recently, tumor, same thing, gets it cut out. She comes in, she starts getting adjusted, waves of into her brain. Headaches going away. Visual field gets better because when she had the surgery, there were visual fields that were messed up by the tumor and by the surgery. Her visual field starts to expand. I'm like, this is like some crazy stuff here that we're talking about. And she, it's interesting because she was like, she couldn't handle the pain from the wave of, and she's, Dr. Plasker, when you adjust me, I feel like my brain is getting flooded. It's almost like it's it hurts. It's like a headache.
Wow.
And so I started to do some research about it. You ready? This is crazy. You know what phantom pain is? Somebody that loses a limb, maybe a veteran, bless them for their service. They sacrifice themselves. They have an arm cut off or a leg cut off, but they have phantom pain.
Right.
Meaning that the innate intelligence of the body, the neurology, thinks there's still a hand there because it's known there's a hand there, and it's trying to send energy to heal that area to grow it back, even though it's not going to happen. But it's sending every ounce of energy that it can to that area. Well, that's what was happening in her brain.
Wow.
When the CSF opened up, the cleansing, the nourishing, the nerve supply, the signals. And so I did some research on it. I said, this has got to be, because I had never read anything about it. So I went into the literature a little bit, and this is a thing in the brain. And people would get headaches like this from this phantom pain from brain surgery, and they would go to the emergency room for it.
Wow.
Yeah. So the nervous system controls everything: immune system, heart, lungs, liver, blood pressure. And, we have a lot of treat the symptom, treat the symptom, treat the symptom in this country, which is creating all kinds of problems because a lot of times the symptom and the cause of the symptom are in two different places. So that's, in a nutshell, the nervous system, plus the performance aspect for high-level athletes and people that want to function at a very high level. So it's kind of exciting and fun.
That's putting it mildly. It's fascinating. It's truly, truly fascinating because I think that most people, once you're involved, if you have injury, that's when you start considering it. But we were talking about earlier, you don't expect longevity. You don't wake up in the morning being like, oh, I could touch my thumb to each finger. I've decided to lift my right leg. But it's the supercomputer up here. I'm pointing to my head. That brain has that spinal cord, and through that spinal cord, all of the nerves that control, your words were, every cell, tissue, and muscle. The nerves have corresponding
Nerve supply
to each of those things of the human body. The spinal cord goes down from the brain, down your neck, which is why the neck is so important. And it goes through the center of your spine.
It's through the foramen magnum. That's the hole in the brain or in the skull that makes room for the spinal cord.
And so your vertebrae, vertebra, is that the plural?
Vertebra is one. Vertebrae
is the plural.
Is plural.
So your vertebrae, we don't have one solid piece because we're able to bend and maneuver. We're bendable. They're able to adjust. And I appreciate you letting a layperson try to work through this mentally.
It is my life's mission to have every layperson work through this mentally.
So when the vertebrae are sitting on top of each other so that you can bend, and I'm thinking in terms of auto accidents, especially in the neck. Now that I'm thinking about the body in these terms, the neck is exposed. The back, there's so much around it, but the neck is just sort of out here on its own like an appendage.
So you say, because you have the ribs that come around, the sternum, all that's why? Brilliant design, right? Because that protects your heart, your lungs, all the vital organs are protected. Your legs don't need the protection that your heart does or your lungs do.
Right.
That's why you have all that mass around you.
And which makes me now, I'm thinking about the hyper importance. Everyone cares about their brain. Everyone cares about their heart. The neck itself, it's so vulnerable. So the vertebrae are there. It's coming right out of the stem, the foramen.
Foramen magnum.
Foramen magnum.
That means big hole in Latin.
It's coming out the big hole, coming down into your spine. In this little area of your neck, it's exposed. As it goes a little bit further, you've got more protection. But in this little area of your neck, that's exposed. The vertebrae are sitting on top of each other. And if you have some sort of trauma where the one vertebra or more than one will move, the injury is simply because you had used an example of sports, like a football player, they break their back. When I hear somebody's broken their back and they're paralyzed, you have this horrific image of like cracks and, the body's just broken. But really the true injury is just that nerve. If that nerve is severed, that's the injury. Everything else you can pretty much repair.
The bone heals itself. The nerves are much more fragile. They don't, depending on the injury, they cannot heal if it's severed. So there's research now, and there's great surgeons that are out there in situations like that are doing amazing things to try and get that connection going again, which is making a big difference for those people. But certainly you don't want that to ever happen. And what we didn't talk about is that it's not just the spinal cord, but out of that hole you have cranial nerves. So nerves that come from the cranium that affect your special senses, eyes, ears, nose, and throat, that come through part of that area. And then the vagus nerve comes out of there, which is the most widespread nerve of the body. It's like the wanderer, they call it, because it's the parasympathetic nerve supply, or a division of the nerve supply that goes to the heart, lungs, liver, kidneys. It speeds up digestion and it slows down heart rate. And it's vitally important. So when your neck is affected, yes, it does affect everything. And, for those of you that are cracking your own neck, you're kind of crazy. You watch all these crazy YouTubers doing these stuff. Don't do that. That's, we get people coming all the time and say, I did it 5 times and it was fine. And the 6th time, yeah, I know, because you're doing it in the wrong direction. You don't want to mess with your own neck. And so, we are very specific. We x-ray our people. We see the alignment. We make sure that we're on the right bone, that we're adjusting it in a way that the body can adapt and heal. We're not just grinding it down. We're actually preserving the disc, preserving the alignment, preserving the nerve supply. And that is vital for healing at every age.
My brain is running a million miles an hour right now. I'm just thinking about like the number of nerves that are coming down there, what the actual physical like thickness of each nerve is, and how sensitive, or even now that I think about it, how resilient it is. It is very, it's sensitive because you can still harm it, but I'm just thinking about my own body and the things I put it through, and the fact that it's resilient, and we don't end up paralyzed when I sneeze is amazing.
The adaptability of the human body is a function of the nervous system. And it is truly amazing, because we talked about change from a 100-year lifestyle perspective, changing perspective. And I think it's important that you have confidence in your own body, that you don't live in fear, that you trust your body, that you trust your body's innate intelligence. And I love using this as an example because there's a lot of people overweight in this country. Mm-hmm. And I was 60 pounds heavier than I am now in 2002. So I changed my life. People said, Dr. Plasker, wow, you lost weight. And I say, no, I'd never lost anything. It was never mine. But what happens is you have to understand the body's ability to adapt. Your body has an innate intelligence. It will adapt to your choices and your lifestyle. So, for example, if you overeat and you didn't have an innate intelligence and a nervous system, and the body didn't have the ability to adapt, then your blood and gut, your stomach would explode for overeating, and your blood and guts would be everywhere. But that doesn't happen. Why? Because your stomach expands, and it says, okay, let me reserve a little of this extra, because obviously you overate for a reason, right? But then if you do it every day and every other day and you keep doing it, then your innate intelligence says, oh, I get it. You're trying to become a polar bear and you're going to hibernate over the winter. Okay, so we'll just pack it on. And so your body grows, you don't die, you don't explode, and you become a polar bear or a grizzly bear. And then when you decide that you're going to stop hibernating and come out and start to play again and take care of yourself again, and you start eating better and moving more, your innate intelligence adapts back. So it's exciting. Say, okay, hibernation is over. So we need to honor our innate intelligence. If you get an injury, if you're injured in an accident, your body's going to adapt. Like we'll see on x-rays, and we'll go over some of them together because we have some mutual clients that we take care of. And you could see on the x-ray that there is some degeneration there. Well, that's a misnomer. That's a completely misunderstood thing. They call it degenerative joint disease. They call it osteoarthritis. Bad name, terrible name. Because what happens in the bones is that the bones are remodeling themselves every millisecond of every day. Bones remodel themselves. That's what they do. There are osteoblasts. They build bone cells. They're bone cells that add to bone. Osteoclasts, they're taken away from bone. And it's called an osteogenesis. It's the process where you have osteoblasts building bone, osteoclasts taking away bone, every millisecond of every day. So if there's good alignment, if you weren't in an accident and everything is aligned the way that it's supposed to be, then that happens in the most healthy way with the right alignment, the right function, you have no problems. But if you have an injury, whether it's on a football field collision or a basketball collision or a car accident collision, and your body changes alignment, then that same osteogenesis process continues. Except now, instead of functionally regenerating every millisecond of every day, it is protectively regenerating every millisecond of every day. So the bone gets laid down differently in that area. It looks on an x-ray, oh my God, that's like degenerating. No, it's the same process that happens when it's aligned. It's just not aligned, and gravity's causing it to be protective and lay down bone in different places. And when you understand, you say, oh wow, so how can I wake up every day and work with my body's innate ability to function at the highest level? And that is the joy of what we do in our practice chiropractically, and the joy of understanding and the paradigm shift of the 100-year lifestyle.
You mentioned the practice. I haven't mentioned it yet. It is Plasker Family Chiropractic.
Plasker Family and Performance Chiropractic, yeah.
We are practically neighbors.
We're neighbors.
We are neighbors.
Yes.
You've been in East Cobb now over...
We've been here since 1989 when my first son was born. Yeah.
Is that
So that's
Dr. Eric?
That is my oldest son, Dr. Jacob now, he's a chiropractor. He's out in Oregon. He practices in Oregon. My daughter is also a chiropractor. She practices in Oregon also. And then my youngest son practices with me here in East Cobb is Dr. Corey. He went to Walton High School, was a soccer player there. They won the state championship. He was the captain of that team. And so we love being in this community and taking care of all these kids.
You have 3 children, and all 3 children became chiropractors.
They did.
That is a testament to you and your philosophy on life and how you see the world. And I meant absolutely, my brain drew a blank. I said, Eric, you're sitting right in front of me. Corey was what I was thinking.
It's all good. And he's a great chiropractor. He's my chiropractor. And, my kids grew up differently. Because of my upbringing, and, I went to school here from 1982 to 1985 at Life Chiropractic College at the time, now Life University. And it was a crazy time, which is, a whole nother set of stories. But it was a crazy time in the world because in 1986, they passed the act that eliminated liability from the drug companies for vaccines. So it became a free reign on putting anything you wanted a vaccine. You didn't have to have anything tested, whatever, which led to a whole nother set of problems that we can get into on another day. And so I was just in the heat of a lot of the rallies that were going on. I was a student, and I was like, I just want to help football players. That's why I became a chiropractor. And what is going on in the world? And so my kids, we raised our kids understanding how to take care of their bodies with, good posture, good spine, healthy nervous system. They got adjusted from day one, got checked from day one. They ate healthier than most kids. Not totally healthy, but healthier than most kids. But we never took medication. We just holistically did the things that all the bandwagon jumpers today are trying to become experts in with absolutely no life experience. We were literally been doing it for over 40 years. And so it's exciting to see they would say, Dad, Mom, I want to stay home from school. Johnny's staying home from school. Well, Johnny's sick. Well, how come we don't get sick? Well, you live differently, And so we used to take them out of school on vacations, because they were just healthy kids. And so it's amazing to be in a position 40 years later to have all the things that we have stood for, that we've never had to change our story. You see people changing their story every day and becoming a new expert in a new story after being, an expert in something that is completely false today. We have never had to change our story. And so we're excited to be able to, for years, I was not practicing here. I sold my practices and I was traveling around the world teaching doctors, training doctors, and speaking to public audiences. And I missed practice. And when my son wanted to stay here, because my other 2 kids decided they wanted to go to the other side of the country, we traveled too much. That was our biggest parental mistake that we made. I said, you know what? Well, let's open a new practice together. And it's just been a blast to be home again and to be in East. I still travel, not as much as I used to, speaking in different parts of the country and the world. But it's great to be in East Cobb and to be able to meet people like you who care about the community, that you don't have a job, that you have meaning in your life with what you do as an attorney, as a personal injury attorney with what you're doing. I just think it's fantastic. We were a natural fit. You know how I knew we were a natural fit?
How's that?
Because when I came here, when we spent that little bit of time together, and there were a lot of other chiropractors here, and there were a lot of people, and they should all use you because you guys do a great job.
Thank you.
I said to you, we are not the run up the bills to be the highest bills ever in the history of the world. Everything we do is the right thing for the patient. And we are the chiropractor for the attorneys, their families, their friends, their kids, and because we do the right thing. And you didn't walk away from that. I tested you actually with that because I wanted to work with somebody that really cared about the community, about the people. And yes, you're everywhere. You're doing a great job with your marketing, positioning, advertising, your education of the community, your podcast. But that's why I'm here, is because that didn't scare you away. But that was something that was meaningful to you, that you wanted your people to get the best care so you could be the best attorney that you could be for them.
Well, I really appreciate you saying that. And it is, it's really just sort of the philosophy and how the entire firm practices. Everyone that we hire knows. Earlier in starting the podcast, we talked about our motto, we take care of you. The personal injury space has a terrible reputation, and it shouldn't, because it's one of the most, I can't say benevolent, but it is such a good practice where in the legal industry, typically only the wealthy have access to attorneys because attorneys cost money. This is one of the rare circumstances where somebody has been wronged through negligence, not because somebody purposefully has wronged them, but they've been wronged and they need access to justice. And the system is set up where any single person, regardless of financial background, can access justice. And it's a shame that people shy away from that access of justice because of the reputation that the industry has.
Yeah, well, being a chiropractor, I kind of understand what you're saying a little bit, because we've had a bad rap for a long time too. And so, and we are, in my opinion, the number one choice, should be the number one choice for every individual and family, period. And we are not just crisis care. We are lifestyle care. We are performance-based care. And I was thinking about collisions, because we have a lot of young athletes that come in and they become older athletes. And when they're young, the collisions that they have, they're choosing those collisions because they're putting on a helmet, and, you know, we see a reverse cervical curve, or we see a spine that's out of alignment, it's growing wrong, it's causing all kinds of problems. And so we see that, but it's their choice to have those collisions. And I was thinking about what you do is the people that you help, it was not their choice to have the collision.
Right.
So the fact that they can have an advocate that will take care of them because it wasn't their choice to have, because these collisions can cause lifetime damage. They can cause all kinds of problems for people that are not just related to the spine, that could be related to the nervous system.
Right.
So to have an advocate for collisions that are not by their choice, I think is really important, especially because the other side is going to try to prevent you from getting the justice that you need. It's not just that you don't have an advocate, you have an anti-advocate, somebody that's working against you, that has a lot of money actively, and they have a system to work against you.
Yeah, it's awful, but we're trying one case at a time. We're trying to make a difference. And Dr. Plasker, I really appreciate you coming in. You are a true embodiment of what it is that you preach. And I think that East Cobb in general is lucky to have you and your family and the clinic. I can tell you from direct experience, I'm hearing back from clients that are your patients that are getting better. About 2 weeks ago, I referred someone, their very first visit, they called the office, asked for me specifically to thank me for referring them to your clinic. That's how much of an impact you had, that patient called my office to thank. So thank you for taking care of our referrals. Thank you for being a part of the community, and definitely thank you for coming on the podcast. This one conversation leads me to believe that we need to have about a dozen more.
Well, you know, you're in service, you know, and you said you're here to serve, and we are too. And so we're lucky to have East Cobb. There's a lot of good parents here, and so East Cobb's lucky to have you. Hopefully they feel that way about us, and we're lucky to have East Cobb too. It's a great community because of people like you.
It is. And yourself.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for tuning in. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Leave any comments if you've got any questions for Dr. Plasker. We will have links to his pages and the 100-year lifestyle, so you can follow up on that. I know after this episode, I want to go and find that video of Nico.
Children's Health and Longevity Threatened is the name of the article. Go to 100yearlifestyle.com. Do it just to search for threatened or health and or children's health and whatever. Search for it. You'll find it. We'll put a link.
Take care.
Thanks.